So now we see the two main components that will help us transform our pattern made of teeth and wax into the final denture. How do we transform the wax in resin? That's the question. So we see now the cylinder cut in two. Okay, it's a cuvette in French. That means a little sink. Yeah, it has a positive and a negative sides. So this gets only here and that gets only there. There's one dimension on one side and another dimension on the other side. We have to know exactly that we don't misplace it. Okay, it simply doesn't go. So this cylinder is made not only by two main components, but those two components can be further dismantled into the tap and the ring. So tap and ring in both cases, right? If we see them separated, that's how they are. And of course, in one of them, we will introduce, as you can see in this image, we'll introduce the model with the pattern, with the clasps, and a quantity of plaster, right? So the plaster is placed there initially. So place the lid, the ring, okay, of the one side, and then in this we place the plaster, and in this plaster we just introduced the model and the pattern. I won't be able to ask the technician, give me the denture on the model. It's impossible, because this was placed there already, and that's it. That's how it goes. You destroy it when you remove the denture, the final denture. So that's the first part of the ring. So in there we see the model and the pattern together. Now pay attention here. Here the clasps are caught in between the plaster that of the model and the plaster that is now setting. Okay, this plaster that is placed over the teeth, and so those teeth will not have undercuts when we put the second part of the cylinder. So you see, this was placed, that's the first stage, as we call it, or time number one, the first stage, the first time. And you see here we have to have it without undercuts. Yeah, the plaster that went over the teeth, you see it. Now we isolate this, and then the second part should never stick to the first plaster, right? The plaster of the second part should not stick to the plaster of the first part. What the technician is doing now is placing, this is optional, but it eases your work. The technician takes some silicone, addition silicone in this case, but it's kind of expensive, but that's it. So some silicone to cover the labial part of the pattern. Why? Because otherwise, when you put the second part, yeah, and you pour the plaster there, that plaster from the second stage will get in between the teeth, and it will be very hard to remove at the end when you have the final denture done. Okay, so we want to avoid this direct contact between the second stage plaster and the teeth. That wouldn't be such a trouble, but it will be difficult to clean afterwards, right? And you may even damage it, or if you look carefully with the magnifier, you will allow the patient to wear some plaster in the mouth for the rest of his life or her life. So we don't want that to happen. So that's why many technicians do this. they insulate all this labial part of the teeth with some silicone that will be embedded in plaster. Yeah, this is details from the dental technician lab, but it's okay for us to see it once, at least once, right? So this is stage 1, okay? Stage 1, or first time, or stage 1, okay? So now everything is without undercuts, okay? Because we placed plasters, the clasps are in position in between the two plasters, the plaster of the model and the plaster of this investment that we did now in the first stage. Okay? And as you can see, the wax and the teeth, the artificial teeth, so that's the pattern. And this sits in the lower part in stage 1. And now we place the ring from the second time. Okay, it can only be placed in one position, it doesn't go vice versa. Okay. And what do we do now? Well, in this moment we have to pour the second plaster, which is stage 2. Okay, that's what the technician is doing now, you see. Covers everything. And this is the second stage of the investment. Okay. Now the second stage should give enough quantity of plaster, and you imagine that this plaster should not stick to the first plaster, because we want to remove the two parts to be able to separate them easily, the two parts. So now then places the lid over, okay. It will be placed in a press, okay. We said that these two components, they can't get one into the other, so this can be placed in only one position. And once this plaster has set under pressure, we put everything in boiled water. Why? Because we want to remove now while it's hot, we want to remove the wax. Okay, we separate the two components now. You just hit it with a hammer, and the knife will separate. You see, the lid has been removed from one side. Okay, now we dismantle the two components, and what do? We put the wax away. Now it's very interesting how they do it. It's a very interesting maneuver. What you see here, it's a hole in this metal cup, and the fact is that I'm taking the water from the boiling pot, but when I have this hot water in this cup, the water that falls down is pure water because the wax sits on the top. Okay, that's why it's a hole there. So what flows there is pure water. When I see the level going down, okay, then I put some more water, and through this hole I have just pure hot water. Okay, that's another small detail from the dental technician lab. So now the wax is thoroughly cleansed. Okay, both sides, time 1, time 2, the wax is completely removed. This is one side of the mold, and we'll see the second part. See? The second half. So also we clean it nicely. So what now? We check that the two components fit perfectly with each other. And what do we see? You see our model with the clasps in plaster. That was time 1. But no wax. The wax is gone, right? And the teeth are gone. They sit in the component from the second stage. Okay, so it's clear. Okay, see the difference, the coupling difference between the two sides of our rings. Because if you may be able to reverse it 180 degrees, I mean, it will not fit, and it's impossible. I mean, so well, to make sure that the technician doesn't make a mistake, the producer has done this in such a way as to avoid mispositioning. Okay, so you cannot misposition it. Okay, it's, as we say, anti-stupids. So what do I do now? Well, in this, where the wax was, I put some acrylic resin. Resin is plastic, right? Plastics is like plexiglass, it's like PMMA, polymethyl methacrylate. Okay, but it's a plastic at the end of the day, right? Pink plastic, which first is powder and liquid, right? And we add powder to liquid, then we press it there, we bring one over the other, we press it, okay? But the technician has to pay attention to take away all the margins of plaster that can be fractured. Yeah, well, it will have a plus, and yeah, okay, it is possible, but it's better than to have plaster in your resin. Okay, now another isolation. Why? Because we don't want to have, you see, the teeth don't have to be isolated. Why is he isolating? Because he doesn't want this resin, you see the powder here, you don't want it to stick to the plaster. See, now the technician is preparing the material, placing liquid, so he doesn't want this material to adhere to the plaster. Okay, that's why he has to isolate the plaster again now. Okay, because otherwise you have a mess inside. So the plaster was re-isolated, and now we're waiting for this resin to get in such a phase. Okay, it's like a dough when you make bread. So the technician is able to model it. Yeah, this is Dr. Șerban Popescu, a legend of our clinic. He looks in admiration, and rightfully so. Now this material is now placed, you see, carefully, is placed, yeah, by the technician, first of all on the teeth, and then keeps placing over. And then we fix the two sides together, okay, and press it under the press. Why under the press? It's hydraulic press, because otherwise it will be higher than we want. Okay, so you see this lever is pressed, and slowly this resin, 2-3 atmospheres, 2-3 bars, the excess resin goes away, and then it's very important to maintain the two things into position in such sort of a ring. Okay, it has a screw there. You can tighten it. That actually you maintain the position. Okay, because this you place it in hot water in order to polymerize the resin. That's it. And you don't want the two components to modify position, because we will have a falsified shape of the denture. So again, we boil this, and then you understand. We open the two components. We destroy the plaster, and we have our denture. So you don't have the model anymore. You destroy the model with the plaster when you have to remove, to extract the denture from within. So now you see that some parts of the model still there, okay, but the plaster is destroyed. That's it. You can't recuperate it. Yeah, it's impossible. So now the excess is removed. There are some excesses, of course, always here and there. You have to remove the plaster, all the plaster that was trapped in the resin. Okay, imagine if we had the same on the labial side. Wow, it was okay that our technician placed that silicone, remember? Now we see how useful it was. And that's the burrs that we're using, and slowly, maybe some discs and some abrasive paper. You see, it's abrasive paper that is rotating, and the finishing, interdental detailing, to make the better aesthetics there. Some diamond, very fine diamond discs. Well, this is fine tuning at the end. So it's important that this acrylic resin be very well polished. There is a separate stage to polish everything. Yeah, that's a big polisher that sits on the table, a table polisher. So after that, the denture is ready to be sent to the dentist.